Emma Rodriguez pressed her palms against the cool metal of her new locker, taking a deep breath as the unfamiliar sounds of Mountain View High School echoed around her. The mountain air in Pine Ridge, Colorado, felt different in her lungs compared to the perpetual drizzle of Portland, Oregon. Everything here seemed sharper, cleaner, and infinitely more intimidating. At 16, Emma had the kind of understated athleticism that came from years of disciplined training, though her lean frame was hidden beneath a simple gray hoodie and dark jeans. Her long black hair fell in soft waves past her shoulders, and her dark eyes held a quiet intensity that most people mistook for shyness. Starting mid-semester was brutal enough without having to decode an entirely new social ecosystem. Back in Portland, she had been just another face in a diverse crowd of 2,000 students. Here at Mountain View High, with its 800 students and tight-knit community dynamics, being the outsider felt like wearing a neon sign. What none of them knew was that beneath her unassuming exterior lay 8 years of intensive karate training. From age 8 to 16, she had spent every Tuesday and Thursday evening and Saturday morning at Sensei Williams's dojo in Southeast Portland. She had earned her first-degree black belt at 14, and just 6 months before the move, she had successfully tested for her second degree. "Karate is a last resort, Emma," Sensei Williams had said during their final lesson together. "Your greatest victory will always be the fight you don't have to fight." During second period biology, she found herself partnered with Maya Lin, a petite Asian girl with wire-rimmed glasses who seemed as comfortable being invisible as Emma usually was. "You'll like Mrs. Anderson," Maya said quietly as they worked through a lab assignment together. "She actually cares about whether we understand the material." "What about the social situation?" Emma asked carefully. "Who should I avoid?" Maya glanced around the lab, making sure they weren't overheard. "Nathan Brooks and his crew basically run the school. Nathan's the football captain, thinks he's God's gift to the universe. His dad owns the biggest construction company in town, so the family has money and influence. Liam Parker and Ethan Taylor are his constant shadows. Liam plays soccer and thinks he's funny, but mostly he's just mean. Ethan's on the basketball team, and he's not as bad as the other two, but he goes along with whatever they decide." Emma nodded, filing away the information. Every school had its hierarchy, and every hierarchy had its enforcers. Third period brought her first real glimpse of the school's social dynamics in action. Walking through the main hallway toward her geometry class, Emma witnessed Nathan Brooks in full display mode. He stood near a bank of lockers surrounded by his usual audience, his Letterman jacket pristine and his blonde hair perfectly styled. "Did you see Martinez's face when coach made him run extra laps yesterday?" Nathan was saying, his voice carrying easily over the hallway noise. "I thought he was going to cry right there on the field." Liam, a wiry redhead with a perpetual smirk, laughed too loudly. "Speaking of disappointments, did you see the new girl? Looks like she shops at thrift stores. Probably can't afford real clothes coming from whatever trailer park she escaped from." Emma's jaw tightened, but she kept walking. She had dealt with bullies before and had learned that reacting only gave them more ammunition. During lunch, Emma watched as Nathan snatched a freshman's phone, scrolled through it with theatrical suspicion, and then tossed it back carelessly. The phone bounced once on the table before clattering to the floor, the screen cracking on impact. Liam grabbed the boy's lunch tray, lifting it above his head before letting it slip from his fingers. It clattered to the floor, sending the freshman's lunch scattering across the linoleum. Emma's hands clenched into fists under the table. She could feel the familiar surge of righteous anger that her sensei had taught her to recognize and control. "You okay?" Maya whispered. "You look like you're about to explode." "I'm fine," Emma replied, though her voice was tight with controlled emotion. "Just not used to seeing that kind of thing happen without consequences." After school, Emma overheard Nathan, Liam, and Ethan planning something for her the next day. "I'm thinking something public," Nathan said, his voice taking on a calculated tone. "Something that puts her in her place without crossing any lines that would get us in real trouble." The next morning, Emma told her mother about the different pace and smaller school environment, but kept her concerns about Nathan and his friends to herself. Her mother, Maria Rodriguez, had left behind friends, familiar routines, and a network of colleagues she trusted, all for the promise of better opportunities in Pine Ridge. When Emma arrived at school, Maya told her that Nathan had been asking people about her, where she came from, her family situation, whether she thought she was too good for Pine Ridge. The morning passed without incident, though Emma noticed Nathan and his friends seemed to be present in every hallway she walked through, always positioned where they could observe her movements without making their surveillance obvious. As Emma walked from the lunch line, Liam blocked her path. "Hey there, new girl. Nathan wants to talk to you." Emma looked past Liam to where Nathan sat at his usual table. "I'm sure he does," she replied calmly, "but I don't particularly want to talk to him." Liam's smile widened. "That's not really how things work around here. When Nathan Brooks wants to talk to you, you go talk to Nathan Brooks." "I appreciate the invitation," Emma said, shifting her weight slightly to a more balanced stance, "but I prefer to eat my lunch in peace. Maybe another time." She started to step around Liam, but he moved to block her path again, his smile taking on a harder edge. "I don't think you understand. Nathan doesn't usually invite people twice." "Liam, is it?" Emma asked. "I'm going to walk around you now and sit with my friend. If you choose to make this into something bigger than it needs to be, that's your decision, but I'm not looking for trouble with anyone." Nathan's voice carried across the cafeteria. "Liam, bring our new friend over here. I think it's time we all got properly acquainted." Liam grabbed Emma's arm just above the elbow. "Come on, Portland. Time to learn how we do things in Colorado." Emma looked down at Liam's hand on her arm, then back up at his face. In one smooth motion, she twisted her arm in the direction of Liam's thumb, the weakest part of his grip, while simultaneously stepping slightly to the side. Liam found himself holding empty air as Emma freed herself effortlessly. "Like I said," Emma continued calmly, "I prefer to eat my lunch in peace." The entire cafeteria had gone silent, 400 students watching in fascination as the quiet transfer student demonstrated that she was not as helpless as she appeared. The rest of the day passed in tense quiet. The next morning, Emma was cornered in the bathroom by 3 senior girls who were friends with Nathan. "Well, look who it is," said the tallest, a blonde girl with sharp features and cold blue eyes, "the famous new girl who thinks she's some kind of action hero." "I don't think I'm any kind of hero," Emma replied. "I just helped a kid who was being bullied." "Maybe you should transfer to a different school," suggested one of the girls, "somewhere that appreciates your particular talents." "I appreciate your concern for my welfare," Emma replied, "but I'm happy where I am. Pine Ridge seems like a nice place once you get past some of the local customs." Later that day, Emma saw Nathan and his crew cornering Carlos Diaz, the freshman whose phone they had broken, against a row of lockers. "What did I tell you about keeping your head down, Diaz?" Nathan was saying, his voice low but threatening. Emma didn't hesitate. She walked directly toward the group, her movements calm but purposeful. "Leave him alone, Nathan." Nathan turned, his expression darkening when he saw Emma. "This doesn't concern you, Portland." "It does now," Emma replied, positioning herself between Carlos and the 3 boys. "Carlos is leaving, and you're going to let him." Nathan stepped closer, using his height to try to intimidate her. "You think because you pulled some trick on Liam yesterday, you can tell me what to do in my school? I think bullying makes you look weak, not strong," Emma said, meeting his gaze steadily. "And I think deep down, you know that." Nathan's face flushed with anger. "You don't know anything about me or this school." "I know enough," Emma replied. "Carlos, go to class." The freshman hesitated, then slipped away from the confrontation. Nathan watched him go, then turned back to Emma, his eyes cold. "You've just made a serious mistake." "Wouldn't be my first," Emma said with a slight shrug. "Probably won't be my last." Nathan stepped closer until he was directly in front of her. "Tomorrow, after school, behind the gym, just you and me, Portland. We'll see how tough you really are." Emma didn't flinch. "Is that really what you want, Nathan? To beat up a girl half your size to prove how strong you are?" "What I want," Nathan replied, his voice dangerously soft, "is to show everyone what happens when outsiders think they can change the rules." Emma considered her options. Refusing would only embolden Nathan and make things worse for Carlos and anyone else Nathan decided to target. Accepting meant potentially revealing more of her abilities than she wanted to. "Fine," she said finally. "Tomorrow after school. But just us. No audience, no phones recording." Nathan smiled, a predatory expression that didn't reach his eyes. "Deal." That evening, Emma practiced her katas in her bedroom, moving through the familiar forms with practiced precision. She wasn't worried about facing Nathan. She had sparred with adults twice his size during her training, but she was concerned about the consequences. Her mother had brought her to Pine Ridge for a fresh start, not to get involved in fights on her second week of school. When Emma arrived at school the next day, she found her locker vandalized, the word "dead" spray-painted across it in bright red letters. Throughout the day, students gave her a wide berth, some looking at her with pity, others with anticipation. "You don't have to do this," Maya told her during lunch. "Nathan fights dirty. Last year he put a kid in the hospital, claimed it was just roughhousing that got out of hand." "I'm not backing out," Emma said quietly. "Sometimes you have to stand up to bullies, or they never stop." After the final bell rang, Emma made her way to the area behind the gym. Despite Nathan's agreement for no audience, at least 30 students had gathered to watch. Nathan was already there, having shed his Letterman jacket to reveal his muscular build. "Last chance to back out, Portland," Nathan called as she approached. "I was about to say the same to you," Emma replied, setting down her backpack. Without warning, Nathan charged forward, swinging a haymaker toward her face. Emma slipped the punch with minimal movement, letting it sail past her head. Nathan stumbled slightly, surprised by her speed, then recovered and threw another punch. Emma blocked it with her forearm, then swept his leg out from under him in one fluid motion. Nathan crashed to the ground, but quickly rolled back to his feet, his face red with embarrassment. "Lucky move," he growled, circling her more cautiously now. "It wasn't luck," Emma replied, maintaining her defensive stance. 8 years of training teaches you a few things." Nathan feinted with his left, then lunged with his right. Emma caught his arm, stepped into his space, and executed a perfect hip throw that sent Nathan flying through the air. He landed hard on his back, the impact driving the air from his lungs. The watching students gasped collectively. Nathan Brooks, the undefeated king of Mountain View High, had just been tossed around like a rag doll by the new girl. Nathan pushed himself up, fury etched on his face. "Liam, Ethan, get over here." His two friends looked uncertain, but moved forward to flank him. Emma adjusted her stance, preparing to face multiple opponents. "I thought this was between you and me," she said, her voice level despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "That was before you cheated," Nathan spat. "I didn't cheat. I trained." Emma's eyes flicked between the three boys, assessing the threat. "This is your last chance to walk away." Nathan nodded to his friends, and they spread out, trying to surround her. Liam moved first, rushing her from the right. Emma sidestepped, caught his extended arm, and used his momentum to send him crashing into Ethan. Both boys went down in a tangle of limbs. Nathan used the distraction to charge from behind, wrapping his arms around Emma in a bear hug. It was a fundamental mistake against a trained martial artist. Emma dropped her weight, breaking his grip with a sharp downward movement, then spun and executed a perfect palm strike to his solar plexus. Nathan doubled over, gasping for breath. "Stay down," Emma advised as the three boys struggled to recover. "This isn't a fight you can win." Nathan glared up at her, his pride clearly wounded, but he made no move to continue the fight. "Who the hell are you?" "Just a girl who's tired of watching bullies hurt people who can't defend themselves," Emma replied. She turned to address the watching students. "This ends now. The days of letting Nathan and his friends terrorize this school are over." To her surprise, several students began to applaud. Others looked uncertain, glancing between Emma and Nathan as if trying to determine which way the social winds were blowing. Carlos pushed through the crowd, his face alight with something like hope. "That was amazing," he said. "No one's ever stood up to them before." Emma shrugged, suddenly uncomfortable with the attention. Someone should have. The next few days brought a noticeable shift in the school's atmosphere. Students who had previously avoided eye contact now smiled at Emma in the hallways. She heard whispers of black belt and kicked Nathan's ass, following her through the corridors. Nathan and his friends kept their distance, though Emma occasionally caught Nathan watching her with an expression she couldn't quite decipher. Not exactly hatred, but something more complex. A week after the fight, Nathan approached her at her locker. Emma tensed, preparing for another confrontation, but his body language wasn't aggressive. "We need to talk," he said, his voice lacking its usual arrogance. "I'm listening," Emma replied cautiously. Nathan glanced around to make sure no one was within earshot. "My dad found out about what happened. He's not happy." "I'm sorry to hear that," Emma said, though she wasn't particularly sympathetic. "He wants me to restore the family honor or some crap like that." Nathan's expression turned troubled. "He's suggesting I bring my older brother into this. Dustin's 20, works construction with my dad. He did some MMA fighting in college." Emma felt a chill run down her spine. "That sounds like a really bad idea, Nathan." "I know," he admitted, surprising her. "I told him no, but he's persistent. I thought you should know." Emma studied his face, looking for deception, but finding only what appeared to be genuine concern. "Why are you telling me this?" Nathan ran a hand through his hair, a gesture that made him look younger and more vulnerable than she'd ever seen him. "Because what you did, it made me think. I've been acting like a jerk, because that's what my dad always told me leadership looked like. But you beat me without trying to humiliate me. You could have hurt me worse than you did, but you didn't." Emma wasn't sure how to respond to this unexpected development. "So what happens now?" "I don't know," Nathan admitted, "but I'm not bringing my brother into this, whatever my dad says. And I'm going to leave Carlos alone. You were right about that." The next day, Emma was walking to her third period class when she was confronted by a man she didn't recognize. Tall, muscular, with the same blonde hair as Nathan, but a harder face. "You the girl who embarrassed my brother?" he demanded, blocking her path. Students in the hallway froze, sensing the danger in the situation. Emma glanced around, noticing that there were no teachers in sight. "You must be Dustin," she said calmly, though her heart was racing. "Your brother and I have worked things out. There's no need for you to get involved." Dustin stepped closer, using his size to intimidate her. "See, that's where you're wrong. In our family, we don't let people disrespect us. My dad sent me to teach you a lesson." Emma shifted her weight subtly, preparing for what might come next. "I don't want to fight you, Dustin." "Too bad," he replied, then lunged forward with surprising speed. Emma reacted instinctively, slipping his punch and countering with a precise strike to his floating ribs. Dustin grunted in pain, but pressed forward, throwing a combination of punches that forced Emma to give ground. He was faster and better trained than his brother, making him a much more dangerous opponent. Emma blocked a right cross, ducked under a left hook, then executed a perfect front kick that caught Dustin in the stomach, driving him back several steps. Students had formed a circle around them, many with phones out recording the confrontation. "That all you got, little girl?" Dustin taunted, though his breathing had become heavier. "I'm just getting started," Emma replied, settling into her fighting stance. Before Dustin could attack again, Nathan pushed through the crowd. "Dustin, stop! What the hell are you doing?" "What Dad told me to do," Dustin replied, not taking his eyes off Emma. "Teaching the new girl some respect." "This isn't right," Nathan said, moving to stand between them. "Emma didn't do anything wrong. I was the one being a jerk." Dustin looked at his brother in disbelief. "Are you seriously defending her?" "I'm trying to be better than what Dad wants us to be," Nathan replied. "Always pushing people around, always having to be on top. That's his thing, not mine. Not anymore." The brothers stared at each other for a long moment, tension crackling between them. Finally, Dustin shook his head in disgust. "Dad's going to hear about this," he warned. "Let him," Nathan replied. "I'm done being his clone." Dustin gave Emma one last threatening look, then stalked away. The gathered students began to disperse, buzzing with excitement about what they had just witnessed. Nathan turned to Emma, his expression a mixture of embarrassment and resolve. "I'm sorry about that. My brother, my dad, they're stuck in the past." "And you?" Emma asked. "I'm trying to figure that out," he admitted. "But I know I don't want to be like them anymore." Over the next few weeks, a remarkable transformation took place at Mountain View High. Nathan approached the principal about starting a peer mediation program with Emma as his co-leader. Together, they began working to create a system where conflicts could be resolved through discussion rather than intimidation or violence. Liam and Ethan initially kept their distance from the new initiative, but gradually, as they saw the positive response Nathan was receiving, they began to participate as well. The social dynamics of the school shifted, with kindness and respect becoming more valued than dominance and cruelty. One afternoon, Emma found Carlos being mentored by Nathan on a science project, the two of them working together as if the past conflicts had never happened. She smiled at the sight, remembering Sensei Williams' words, "Your greatest victory will always be the fight you don't have to fight." That evening, as Emma practiced her katas in her bedroom, her mother knocked on the door. "The principal called today," Maria said, her expression serious. "He told me everything that's been happening at school." Emma tensed, preparing for disappointment or anger, but her mother surprised her by smiling. "He wanted to thank you," Maria continued. "He said the school hasn't been this peaceful in years, and it's all because you had the courage to stand up to Nathan and his friends." "I was just doing what Sensei Williams taught me," Emma said. Maria sat on the edge of the bed, watching her daughter with pride. "You used your strength to protect others and to create change, not just to win fights. That's exactly what your sensei would have wanted." Emma realized that her mother was right. In standing up to Nathan, she hadn't just defended herself or Carlos, she had helped transform an entire community. Sometimes the greatest victories weren't measured in defeats inflicted, but in lives improved. As she continued her kata, moving through the familiar forms with practiced precision, Emma felt at peace. Pine Ridge was beginning to feel like home, a place where she could be her full self without hiding her strength or her principles. And that, she realized, was the most important victory of all.